Today I have the pleasure of speaking to the Wolf of Weed Street. I think you are the publisher and founder of marijuanastocks.com as well, yes?
Yes.
We are delighted to have you because I have all of these investors that are self-directed, accredited investors, a very large United States American audience, Canadian, Australian, and European, and they want to get involved in the medicinal marijuana, blossoming market, but they don't even know where to start. And of course, you are really deemed to be the #1 source online. Where do we start? Do I call you Wolf, I guess?
Yeah, you can call me the Wolf. That's fine. Where do we start? I guess we start at the beginning. With any investment, you're always looking for the trends. And in marijuana, the trend seems to be that the picks and shovels will win the battle. So, what I always tell investors is to take a step back and really look at the ancillary businesses that are attached to marijuana. As you know, we just had an election, so you had Oregon, Alaska, and DC going. Florida didn't, unfortunately. And I think that you're going to see a residual effect that companies that supply grow lights, companies that supply agricultural products, water, power, all of those are going to be, very big topics and very good investments for people moving forward.
All right, well, my audience is going to want to know what publicly listed companies are currently on your hot list.
Well, today, actually, and the last week, I was looking at Tweed, which is actually, a Canadian company. They've been doing very well. I'm looking at some of the other Canadian companies because they're not seeing the impact of the elections and the ballots in the States. So I was looking at Supreme Pharmaceuticals as one, Abatis, Affinor. I'm just looking at pretty much right now the Canadian companies because they're not being affected by the emotion in the United States right now in the last couple of days. In the United States, though, I am looking at a couple of plays. I'm looking at Stevia, which is STEV, and that's a hemp play. And I think hemp is going to be one of those products, going into the future that everybody's going to jump on.
All right, and I just want to jump you back and mention to you that we're following GrowPros because they're utilizing Canna Cash to make wise investments at acquiring some of these companies right now during the growth period. Have you heard of this company?
What's the symbol?
GrowPros is MZO on the CSE. I noticed you have some CSE coverage as well.
Yes, I actually have spoken with the guys from MZO. I actually have them on my ticker. I was put through to them by a mutual friend. It's like I told them, they have to really crack into the market and get off of the grays before, the United States becomes really interested in the story. It's all about narrative. And right now, especially in the marijuana sector, if you're on the grays, you're dead in the water. All the volume is going to come from us, unfortunately.
Well, I hear you, and I think you've made a couple of very critical points, which I hope our audience will hear you. The political campaigning and what's happening in the political scenario in the United States is a major element in what's happening in the marijuana sector. So would you like to speak to that a little bit? Because I think I read on your site that voting is a top issue for you.
Yeah, part of the problem is that, we have a system in the United States where, especially in the midterm elections, people don't come out and vote. And, a lot of what's being decided is being decided by people that have an antiquated way of thinking. The same people that are, voting no against medical marijuana are the same people that, subscribe to the philosophy of William Randolph Hearst, which is, yellow journalism. You have a guy like Sheldon Adelson out of Nevada who's a casino owner that pumps in so much money into the state of Florida, a state that he's not even in, just to kill Amendment 2. And he was a big killer of the bill. I mean, essentially, he created that last minute push. But I think what investors need to know, especially in the marijuana sector, is that it's cyclical. It's boom and then it's bust. And each time, it goes around, we put in a higher high and a higher low. But it all depends on catalysts. In 2013, the catalyst for the sector was Medbox going from $3 a share to $215 a share in one day. That set off a 3-day run of all these marijuana stocks. Then they dropped, and then they plateaued. And then in August of 2013, Eric Holder came out and said that the Department of Justice wouldn't prosecute states for their marijuana laws. So that was a big spark, I should say. And that caused a little bit of a run-up going into Colorado. Now, Colorado, as you know, became the first recreational state in the United States. And boom, that's the huge bust. That was the huge, catalyst for 2014. And, I mean, I was looking at my portfolio, and the stocks that I was picking go from, I was having nice gains of like 100%, to from January to the 1st of April, my portfolio was up 2,600%.
Okay, first of all, if you're new to the medicinal marijuana sector or you're just starting to review, what states in the United States, if you're looking at public companies, would be the best states for you to invest in?
Washington, Colorado, California. I mean, DC now, it depends. I mean, what investors also need to understand is they don't have to just buy stocks. I mean, buying stocks is great, but they can also make investments in these companies before they go public. So there is that as well.
Okay, so if they want to invest in a pre-IPO, of course, they do need to be accredited investors. Do you have a location on your website where they can find out about these pre-IPOs?
No, I don't. I really just do that through my network. Once I start putting stuff like that on my website, it becomes very convoluted, and I'm not trying to be Craigslist of weed. Trying to give information and disperse it properly.
Can you give us a forecast of what you anticipate happening with the overall marijuana market, say, in the next 6 months? Because I do realize this is a very dramatic sector.
Well, the market is at a low right now, and I think you'll see steady gains. Nothing like early Q1 of 2014, but what people also need to realize is that the marijuana sector is basically from mid-October to the Ides of March. So, just be aware of that. You have to take profit.
Okay, and the question is, why does the cycle work that way? Because I would think your marijuana crops start coming in when? In the spring and summer? So can you just explain to me how this cycle works?
Well, because I'm talking about the sector in general. Obviously, there's going to be stocks like Tweed, like Organic Gram, like Bedrocan, the people that are actually growing that are going to be okay. But in the OTC, which is pretty much what dominates the marijuana sector, people check out in the spring, like right before tax time. Then you start to see a decline, and that's what happened. And it's dramatic, and it literally happens intraday or like overnight. Where you could see a 60% decline. So people have to be prepared. And like one of the things that a lot of I got people into a stock. I'll give you an example. It was at a half a penny, and for the next 2 months, it ran 11,000%. Okay, people were trying to get 12,000%. After 30%, if I'm running a hedge fund, like I'm a superstar. And that's one of the things that I tell people. Like, I don't tell people to sell. That's not my place. I don't want to tank a stock. But after 30% gains, like, you're on your own, and you have to really decide how greedy you want to be.
Okay, well, Ken, I thank you very much for joining us today. This has been not only very informative, but actually quite fun. Thank you.
Thank you.